After hours darkroom, red safe light, promise on the contact sheet. The darkroom after midnight keeps its breath the way a person with a story keeps it, slow, warm, unwilling to speak first. When the door seals, the city falls away, and the red safe light tells you what can be forgiven. I signed the lab log with a pen that made me briefly honest and slid my phone into my left pocket, the pocket I use for things that are supposed to make it home. The timer on the enlarger ticked its small metronome. Trays of chemistry exhaled a metallic patience. I'd told myself I was here to print. Back home, Jonah had said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" in the voice that means, "Please stay now." Our couch turns into a witness stand when we sit at opposite ends. I left before either of us picked a side to defend. Halfway down the stairs, my screen lit with a message from In My Contacts. L in the way I label hazards to make them smaller. Back doors propped. Just talk. Rooftops forgive nobody in daylight. Red lights pretend they will. By day, I fix other people's paragraphs. By night, I try not to turn my own into weapons. Jonah and I have a code that works when we remember it. T means come here, you awake. Means I'm scared. Tomorrow means not yet, but don't go far. Luke drifted back into orbit 2 months ago with a camera that looked like a plan and a laugh that sounded like a glass agreeing to be set down gently. He didn't ask for anything. That was how I started bringing him everything. He was already inside, of course, leaning against the dryer with sleeves pushed up and the kind of calm that convinces you your nerves are a hobby. "You came," he said, "and grown men never tire of pretending arrival is a plot twist." "I came to return something," I said. "My lens, your nerve." "Your name," I said. "It's been on my mouth too long for its own health." He smiled without showing teeth, restraint as cruelty. He lifted a contact sheet off the drying line with 2 fingers and pinned it to the light box. Faces bloomed in grid squares, holding still the way people only do for machines. "You can print that one," he said, tapping a frame that knew more than it should. "Or we can tell the truth without paper." He slid a grease pencil across the light box and set a blank strip of leader beside it, the improvised confession paper everyone uses in here. "3 words," he said. "Why are you here?" "3 words is cruel," I said. "That's why they work." He didn't move closer yet, but the room did. I wrote proud at breakfast. Beneath it, smaller, touch before arguing. He read the words and let the quiet happen like a careful exposure. He didn't touch me. His hand hovered near my lapel as if adjusting it would be a kind of permission, then fell away. The safe light made a red country out of his throat. "Does he know?" Luke asked. He didn't need to weaponize the pronoun. "He knows the apartment is quiet," I said, which is the kind of honesty that gets hate mail from the truth. The enlarger timer ticked us toward a decision. He reached past me, his shoulder brushing my chest with the accuracy of accident, and clamped a negative into the carrier. The act was so intimate and ordinary that my body confused verbs. Stand, breathe, decide. He switched on the lamp. For a second, a rectangle of clean white fell on the easel, the shape of choices before chemistry has a say. "You always liked this light," he said. "It tells your skin what to admit." "I like that it tells paper when to stop pretending," I said. He smiled with his eyes because the rest of his face was busy being dangerous. He lifted my hand and pressed 2 fingers against the exposure button. The light cut across the easel. The timer sighed itself back to 0. He took my hand like a borrowed tool and lined it with his, steadier than mine. The contact frame opened. Paper slid into developer. The tray rocked the way boats rock when they're ready to forgive. The image climbed out of milky fog and decided to live. "We shouldn't," I said, "because some lines are fire extinguishers." "Of course we shouldn't," he said, and kissed the hinge of my jaw where stubbornness keeps its spare keys. It wasn't frantic. The darkroom doesn't reward speed. His mouth found the place below my ear where regret loses vocabulary. Mine found the line of his lower lip that makes Heat consider a career change. His hand slipped under my shirt and rested flat a second, as if taking a pulse he meant to quote correctly later. Then he moved with attention rather than appetite. He guided my fingers down with the steadiness of someone who respects tools. I closed my hand and he exhaled into my mouth a truth nobody in the building had paid to hear. When he reached for me, I let him. We stayed quiet because walls prefer prose. The timer ticked a small approval. The chemistry didn't mind. "We already cheated," he said when breath remembered itself. "We cheated when we started telling each other the truth before we told it at home." "I know," I said, and the word decided to stop pretending to be innocent. He lifted the contact sheet, found a clean margin, and wrote with the grease pencil in the same careful block letters he uses to label film sleeves, "Turn toward your name." He pinned it back to the line. The letters hung there as if the room had been designed to display them. "I booked a room," he said. He delivered it like a weather report that wasn't in love with being right. "We could stand at the window and not touch for 60 seconds just to prove we remember ceremony. We could keep the do not disturb honest." "I'm tired of being clever," I said. "Clever's my curriculum," he said. "Accurate is extra credit." He turned off the enlarger and the red country pressed closer. He took my wrist gently and traced the inside once with his thumb, choosing not to keep what he could have stolen. He stepped back the moral inch men use when they're trying to pass inspection. "Text me a weather report in the morning," he said. "Tell me if the kettle beat the reasons." "It usually does," I said, "when we let it." He locked the chemical jugs the way a man who wants to be decent locks anything worth spilling. We left through the back door into air that had decided to mind its own temperature. The city knew how to keep water where it belonged. He didn't touch my shoulder as I passed. I didn't ask him to. We were both trying for accurate instead of noble. The walk home was a discipline of smaller sentences. The crosswalk gave me time, I took it. The apartment offered its square of kitchen light and the fridge's quiet hum. Jonah sat on the floor with his back against the door, sleeves pushed to his elbows, one ankle across the other, the posture manuals use when they draw people who are about to fix things. He didn't ask where I'd been. He turned his head toward the place beside him. I sat. The kettle watched us like an honest device that knows its job better than I know mine. "Do you want to be asked?" he said, voice steady, not performing mercy, offering it. "Please," I said, "because prompts are scaffolding when you've been building without permits." "Are you lonely?" "Some nights," I said. "Not here, not when you ask first, not when the kettle outruns the reasons." I took his wrist and placed his hand on my forearm the way he does when he needs to make sure I'm not inventing weather. His thumb traced once and believed me. "I feel useful," he said. "I want to be wanted before I'm useful." "Tonight's procedure," I said. "Touch first, argue second, report later." The kettle clicked like a stamp in a country that still believes in mail. We poured water over mint and named it dinner because names are cheaper than regret. I took the liter strip from my pocket and pinned it under the lemon-shaped magnet on the fridge so Proud at Breakfast faced the room. Jonah read the words and his mouth did the smaller, braver thing. He picked up the dry erase marker and wrote beneath the lemon, "Tomorrow, keep the torque." He didn't grin. He nodded like a man, assembling a morning from honest screws. We made a rule that isn't noble. When prosecution tries to wear a bathrobe, one of us says darkroom and the other puts the kettle on while the first puts his hands where history can find them. We agree to 5 words when 5 are enough. We agree to stop at the shoulder, not the ditch. We agree to try to want what we promised, and when we don't, we write 3 words on small paper and tell the room where we failed and how we'll fail differently tomorrow. Days did what days do when you're trying to be an amateur human with professional consistency. The strip in my pocket learned the shape of my left hand. Paper learns its carriers. On the late bus, I drafted messages to no one that began "I didn't ask," because I thought that counted as kindness and ended "May your breakfast go right." I didn't send them. The not sending felt like a skill borrowed from safe flights that never raised their voices. A week later, afternoon tried to be a test. I walked past the gallery and bought nothing. I left a bottle of water by the service door with a note, "For whoever is waiting for a sister." The night guard nodded like a bridge that has held and will hold again. On the way home, I slipped a blank contact sheet into my pocket and wrote "Turn" toward your name across the clean border. I didn't light anything. That night we ate toast like it had been newly invented. We failed and failed differently and failed in ways that didn't require anyone to stand under red light pretending to know which exposure would save them. The room did not demand a verdict. The morning remembered its job. And when we said tomorrow out loud, it meant only what we let it mean.